let's talk a little bit more about Stuxnet, right? Who's behind Stuxnet, right? And I told you U.S. Army is there, and it was actually a joint effort between U.S. and Israel. And it was, as I said, all the APTs are highly sophisticated, so was this. It was a highly sophisticated APT. And the specific features it had was controlling the PLCs, not seen before. And it was also called the Olympic Games Operation, started by George W. Bush, and also it was continued through. So it started infecting systems, and how it propagated was it infected systems, and it was supposed to, and just because it was caught, and you know, an update was made, but it was not a long time it could run, right? So again, the targets here was very clear. It was targeted towards the it's called the Natanz facility in Iran, Natanz, and Iran, which is actually the largest gas centrifuge uranium enrichment facility. All right, so that's basically the thing behind it. So uranium enrichment facility here is an example, and to create nuclear weapons could be the goal, but Iran was saying they are using it for other purposes. So this might give you a clue that why US was trying to stop this kind of plan in Iran, okay? So, this picture down here is basically the president of Iran taking a tour of the centrifuges, you know, where the centrifuges are placed, and physically how the centrifuges look like. You can basically take a good idea from here, and there's some, you know, researchers walking with him, right? So the whole attack flow was actually pretty amazing. So if you look at this particular slide, this gives you a good idea about the whole attack flow. The first step was to infect, right? So they used a USB drive, and the way they did was somebody had to go in and physically take that into the plant, right? And also, like, you know, no one knows, or probably it's not documented, or nobody talks about it, that, you know, who was it done by spy, was it like an internal source? But, you know, it could be anybody. It could be the guy who was walking the president down there in that picture earlier I showed you, right? I'm just kidding, but it could be anybody, right? So nobody knows about it, but it was done, well crafted. But the infection got in there through a USB, right? And the USB infected, you know, the computer, and that's how they, you know, got their entrance. And so basically, once you know, this kind of, you know, plant, they don't have they have limited access or no access to internet also, right? So the infection to spread is again a problem, right? Because now it has to be sent across inside the plant, inside, you know, the network, to get to the right place, so that, you know, it can do isolation. And if it goes on a totally isolated machine, sometimes maybe the machine gets connected to the internet for updates or something, so it has to wait, you know. So it's the first step of success, that is, you know, getting in there, but the whole operation needs to happen after that. So once they did that, the USB, you remember, you can exploit as soon as they could, you know, either connect, you know, they could get the executables out, and what they did was they placed them, the malware, and they started spreading it on the internal network. That is, you know, the different systems and the steps for the malware, you know, it basically goes and checks if the system is running a Siemens product, you know, and in this case the PLC is a Siemens product, and it basically went and checked for that, if that software is on there, because it knew what it was doing. It had done its recon. It had analyzed the whole network. It had analyzed all the softwares. In the back, the teams in United States command and control, they had gone through. They had you know, done. Of course, they must have done all their, you know, due diligence after the information started going to them. And whenever they found a Siemens PLC software, until they didn't find, they kept on jumping and hopping from machine to machine and deleting itself from the old machine, so that the presence is not there. So it is like very smooth, very stealthy, right? So eventually, by doing this lateral movement, which they did, as I described in the last processes also, right? So they were targeting the Siemens PLC software. They needed to wait probably like weeks, months before those machines, they got access to that. They then isolated machines, you know, are there, so that then now they are part of the they can now somehow access the centrifuges. That's what the strategy was there. And so as soon as they interact with them, they basically connect to the centrifuge. And they might be like weeks or months, but when they normally do, they do it for upgrades to the centrifuge or some changes to be made. And this is actually not done on a daily basis. So this software is basically sitting there stealthily, silently, trying to see when next time. So they first found out which machines have that Siemens software, the PLC software, right? Now they are sitting there and now they are waiting. When will this software connect to the centrifuge, right? So Stuxnet basically waits patiently until the machine connects to the centrifuge, and at that moment they take over and reprogram the PLC on that centrifuge. And what this is going to do, what they did was they increased the speed of the rotation of the centrifuge, okay, and out of the normal range, and so that they can cause physical damage to the centrifuge. So by doing so, by increasing the speed, eventually they are going to start the order, destroy the centrifuge, will basically crash and give up basically. So the goal was to physically disrupt the centrifuge by altering the behavior and also altering the behavior of the PLC software, right? There's more to it because this is actually, if you see on the lower right hand side, there's a small graph on this particular picture. It's pretty interesting, right? So what they did was they played and with the speed, they altered the Stuxnet altered this normal speed, but the display that the engineers were monitoring the speed, that was also tampered with. So what was happening was, it's pretty cool, right? So the engineers never came to know that the centrifuges are going above the range, or they are not performing the way they're supposed to, because their speed, their reporting which was happening, the speed that came out normal, and that Stuxnet was basically that was part of the whole thing. The reporting was also compromised, and the speed back to the engineer was they never could figure out that there's something wrong or not. So it is amazing actually what they did, a lot of damage. They started this so-called in 2009, and it was actually discovered in 2010, and basically they did they destroyed over 1,600 centrifuges, and in 2009, and then again more, and so basically there was a lot of damage. Every month, like 3,700 centrifuges were destroyed sometimes. So basically they could not figure out, the Iranian authorities could not figure out why are this. They just thought, okay, there's something wrong with the centrifuge, but they did not know that they are victim of this attack, right? And by doing so, they kind of went in and kind of destroyed thousands of centrifuges, caused a lot of damage, and this was all done by U.S. government to protect whatever the interests were for our nation, right? So there is so understanding these steps is very important, right? Also, I've actually listed out these steps again for you, so you understand and correlate it with what I had taught you initially, the whole flow diagram, right? When it comes down to APTs. So Stuxnet, as I said, waits until the machine is going to run the PLC. Then it takes weeks or months. Whenever their goal is to change the speed of the spinning of the centrifuges are reprogrammed. Also, they're tampered with the report, so they don't get detected. Then they're going to the goal is to increase the speed of the centrifuge, as I said. So it basically causes unbalance and destroys themselves in the material, and basically high loss is kind of is there now, right? So now you can imagine what all can be done, and especially, as I said, different speeds in a centrifuge, you can interrupt, you can delete them, you can crash them. So the goal here is that the destruction was caused by Stuxnet. The creators knew exactly what they were doing. There were teams behind it. Goal was to shut down and also, they had a longer goal. They got detected, right? But the goal was to remain undetected as long as they can and keep on causing havoc and damage.